Good morning. Got a weird echoey thing. Bear with me 2 seconds. I think that seems to have done it. Everybody hearing me loud and clear? Seem to have two versions of the same show going on for a moment there. No idea how I managed that, but I think we're past the worst. If anyone can confirm that you can see me and hear me, that would be marvellous. Jim Turner is here. Good morning, Jim. Hope you're fit and well, my friend. Steve Williamson. I'll come back to Steve in just a moment because it's something to show you. Mark Whiting is here. Morning, Mark, and all morning to you, Mark, and all. Just had a message on LinkedIn. What's the thing on LinkedIn? Is that to say that the stream has just gone down? Hopefully not. No, it's just to tell me the stream should be starting. Can you all hear me? Can you all hear the music? Good morning, Mr. Footy Williams. I will do this a couple of times because obviously not everybody has arrived yet, but I had a couple of photographs come through this morning. Now, can I access them from here? I can. So while we were in Intermat, got a selfie with one of the stars of the show, Mr. Williamson. Anybody else think that this looks like he's taken his elderly grandfather out for a walk? Cheers for that, Steve. Good photograph, though, I have to say. Yeah, the old yellow glasses came out as well. One other thing that I do want to show you, and again, I'll come back to this in a moment or two. You know, we were talking about yesterday, we were talking about a guy called Simon Skelton over on Instagram. I think he goes by the name of Badger Welding or something like that. And I was telling you about some of these machines that he does. So he takes a photograph of a machine, your machine if you like, and he hand draws it and then he puts it through a CNC machine which engraves it and cuts it out and everything else. I wanted to show you what that actually looks like when it's finished. There you go. Who wouldn't want that hanging on their wall? It doesn't really do it justice. There's an awful lot of detail in that. That's not just a shape. If you look very closely, you can see literally all the, all the various bits of the tracks, the cab, the bucket, the couplings. Everything there is in intricate detail and all hand drawn by the man himself. I'm expecting him to join us on the show a little bit later on. So if you'd be interested in something like that, please go and take a look over on Instagram or in Instagram. I think it is Badger Welding. If you go to LinkedIn, he is Simon Skelton. Go and take a look. Who else just joined us? Yes, I mentioned him about them. Nearly a grand, but amazing work. He wants to do one of the machine. I think it's worth a grand is a lot. Don't get me wrong, a grand is a lot, but when you look at the hours, he reckons that he can spend as much as 50 hours actually hand drawing machine before he converts it into that piece of it is literally, I mean, make no mistake, this is not a piece of mechanical engineering. This is a piece of art, a work of art. Probably not really aimed at your average digger driver, although if you're an owner operator, maybe you'd be very keen to immortalize your machine in aluminium. But if you're a major manufacturer and you've just done a deal for a £500,000 excavator, £1,000 to drop on something like that as a thank you to your customer, not that big a deal. And I think that's where he's actually aiming his business. Steve says, good thing to put up in the office wall for a company. Yeah, totally agree. I know he's done a couple for Volvo, and he's looking to do some more as well. And he's going to be at Hillhead. If anybody is actually making the journey to Hillhead, our man Simon is going to be there as well. When we get a bit closer to the date, I do think it is worth. I'm probably not entirely sure, but I'm probably only going to be at Hillhead for the first 2 days. So it might be worth us all touching base, just those of us that are actually making the journey, touching base to actually decide where and when we're going to all try and meet up. Simon Skelton is going to have a stand, although I think he's going to be in the pavilion, and I don't really want to go into the show to go back out of the show to go back into the show. So if we can meet somewhere down on the quarry floor, that would be fantastic. Mick Norton's just joined us. Morning, Mick. And although I've got a banner for it, I did forget to say, happy Star Wars Day, everybody. May the 4th be with you. Yes, it is that. I can't remember who reminded me of that yesterday, but thank you very much indeed for doing so. Yeah, May the 4th. May the 4th. The year is absolutely flashing by. Anybody ever notice that with dates? I booked for myself and my other half to go to Bergamo back in December, I think it was. I basically had a refund from the fine folks at EasyJet, and they said, well, you've got vouchers here, why don't you spend them? So I booked a flight, or booked a couple of flights to Bergamo, and at the time it was like, oh Jesus, it's months and months away, and then it was 100 days away. Now, couple of days and we'll be off. Gaz Evans is in the house. Good morning. So we've got, I haven't seen Simon actually pop up in the chat yet, but we've got model makers and we've got artists in the house. What a weird and wonderful mix of people we have. Footy says, where is Hillhead based? Hillhead is in Buxton in Derbyshire, so hardly local to you at all. It's a long way up, and it's one of those locations that is probably, I mean, from where I am, I'm probably on the motorway for, I don't know, 2 and a bit hours, and then I have to hike across country. And just thank you very much indeed for increasing my viewer numbers. You know how I always laugh that Footy calls me bro? Here's somebody that's actually allowed to do so. That's my sister. Don't think she's ever been on the show before. Morning, Cal. I've no idea. Did you hit the button by mistake? I've no idea what you're doing here. You are going to be bored out of your tiny mind, but thank you. Thank you for popping on. How's the weather in Worthing? Sarah Jane Turner is here as well. Morning from Mrs. T. I thought there was only one Mrs. T. Ding dong, the witch is dead, or something like that. But yes, so the other Mrs. T, the surviving Mrs. T is here. Morning to you, Sarah Jane. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Just a very quick one. Want to throw out there. I don't know if anybody's seen this. There is a health and safety executive campaign on at the moment about protecting your earring. Your earring? No, not your earring, your hearing. See, the South London comes shining through sometimes. Yes, go and take a look at the HSE website. They are doing a real crackdown on protecting your hearing. Not so much of a deal if you're working inside the cab of a machine, because obviously they are all low noise levels these days. But if you're out and about actually working alongside, particularly working alongside hydraulic breakers and that kind of thing, do protect your hearing, won't you? Footy says, sorry, it's 4.5 hours for me, too far. As I say, bizarrely, Buxton is kind of the middle of the country, and yet it's nowhere near anything, unless you happen to be working for JCB. Spying, I think, yes, could well be. I don't need to say this. You've all done Saturday shows before. There is no particular agenda today. If there's anything anyone would like to talk about, there you are. There is Simon Skelton. Good morning, Mark. The current bun is out in force in Tunbridge Wells today. I've already shown you, but I'm going to show you very quickly again. Simon Skelton's in the chat, and that's what he does. He makes you big, sexy aluminium cutouts of your machine, all hand-drawn. As I say, 50 hours of hand-drawing goes into the making of one of those. So if you're in the market for a real piece of art and you love your machine, and he does trucks as well. I'm sure he does other stuff as well, but if you're into that kind of thing, then Simon Skelton's your man. Easily find him over on Instagram, but you can also find him right here, where he's actually watching from LinkedIn, I think. Let's have a look. And there we are. We've already got a fan. Steve Williamson says, the one he does with black in it are stunning. They really are. Yeah, they really are. As I say, if you are going to Hillhead, even if you're not in the market for one of those, please pop by and say hello to Simon Skelton. The guy's an artist. Why would you not want to say hello to an artist? If you care to, Simon, please drop your details or the stand number into the chat, and I can share that amongst those that are with us. On the same subject, if anybody would care to actually jump on the show, if you've got anything to say, anything to share, you can do that. Now, can I grab this one? Can I grab this? Simon's just sent me another photograph. Bear with me. I don't know how, but I'm hearing myself in the background. But he sent me another photograph here. Can I It is the strangest thing. I can hear in the background my own voice, but about 10 seconds ago. I think I've cured it. My apologies. Now, can I get this thing to upload? As I say, if anybody would like to jump on the show, if you've got anything you'd like to say, share, discuss, detail, you're welcome to do so. I will share the link in the chat in just a moment. Let me take that away. Dan Cullen's just joined us as well. Now, let me go back to here. Steve Williamson saying the one he does with the black in it are stunning. This is talking about Simon Skelton and his artwork. There you are. That's another one and that is one piece. So the truck and the excavator mounted on it, all of that is one piece of art. My voice is back again. I have no idea what's going on. I'm going to call a halt to that and call a halt to this. Let me share the link to the show in the chat. Invite. It is this one. If you'd like to have a look in the chat, you will see. Right about now, you should be seeing a link. If you'd like to pop on, if you're sat in a machine and you've got your mobile phone to hand, it will work perfectly well with that. If you're on a webcam, you can do that as well. You literally press that link, fill in your name, and you will be on the show. Simon Skelton says, Instagram, Badger Welding, TikTok, The Artful Badger, LinkedIn is Simon Skelton, Hillhead Stand is PA45. The artwork is all hand-drawn by me, one line at a time. There you are. There is the artist himself. Yeah, thank you very much indeed for that, Dan. I'm sure the sound is perfectly okay where you are. It is the weirdest thing. I'm speaking here, and obviously I'm speaking into a microphone, and then about 10 seconds later, it's coming out of one of the two screens at me, and I can't for the life of me see where it's coming from. But not a problem. As I say, I've just shared. Have I done? I have. I've shared the link. We did a lot of talking this week about all things electrification. If that's something you'd like to discuss a little bit more, I'm more than happy to do so. I've already mentioned the fact that we've got the HSE doing a crackdown on protecting your hearing, so don't be too surprised if people start paying close attention to your e-defenders, because the HSE are breathing down their neck. One other thing, and this is the subject matter of my column on Monday morning. John F. Hunt, one of the 10 companies that were found guilty of bid rigging and price fixing back in March last year, has just won a big residential demolition reconstruction project over in Battersea, not a million miles away from where I grew up, actually. And the question that has arisen is, should they actually have even been in contention? Now, I'm not singling out John F. Hunt here. I'm talking about companies in general. Bear with me, I've just had a message here. What have we got? Yes, Steve Williams has just sent me a photograph. I'm not going to be able to share this over on here, but let me show you. Can you see that? That's a bit of Simon Skelton handiwork as well. Anyway, yes, I was... there you are. It all comes full circle. I sent you my favourite one. Yeah. My question about John F. Hunt and the other 10, or the other 9, should I say, about the CMA is, should they have even been in contention to win the work in the first place? Now, I'm well aware of the fact that the 10 companies in question have each been fined, and to varying degrees. They have paid their fines, and they've paid their dues and stuff like that. However, we've got a situation in this industry now where lots of clients, developers, major contractors, tier 1 contractors are requiring companies to actually basically declare that they are corruption-free, collusion-free, bid rigging-free at the very outset. So it's part of a pre-qualification questionnaire in many instances. It's also part of a pre-tender discussions. It's also part of pre-contract negotiations. So if you're bidding for work, you are not. It's not unusual for you to be told, we need you to fill in this form that says you have not been convicted of collusion or corruption or anything like that in the past. assuming that, now bearing in mind this is March last year that the CMA ball dropped, so it's all out there in the public domain. We know exactly who did what to whom and when and how and everything else. So how are those companies still winning work? How are they still making it onto tender lists? Just wonder if it's my phone that's making the noise. Seems to have cured it. I'm not entirely sure. Dan Cullen says, well, talking about the earmuffs, where I was, there was guys using petrol saws and no earmuffs, not eyewear. Yeah, the eye one is I mean, the number of horror stories you see on horror photographs of people that have been caught by, angle grinder blade as stuck in their head and stuff. Why would you take the risk? Simon Skelton says, thank you, Steve. I'm looking forward to working with you. There you are. See, this is Tinder, Grinder, one of those. Hey, take your pick. I'm not here to judge. But yeah, we do bring people together. Yeah, I just to prove it, and I know some of you people arrived a little bit later than others, and there is Steve Williamson taking his granddad for a walk. Thanks, Steve. Somehow managed to make yourself look younger and make me look older. Well done on that. Thank you so much. Yes. We were talking about Simon Skelton, and you can see his artwork. Go and have a look. Go and have a look. He did give us an address, I think. Hop on over to Instagram and look for Badger Welding. You'll see all his fancy stuff over there. No takers as yet for anyone to come on the show. That's not a problem. I have more than enough to talk about. Exactly how they're getting away with this, and there are hundreds of other legit demolition companies looking for work. Here's a discussion that I've had in the past, and I actually had it yesterday afternoon. So as we know, all 10 of the companies that were found wanting over bid rigging and price fixing were all members of the National Federation of Demolition Contractors. For those of you that don't know, the NFDC gets together both on a regional and on a national basis as well. I don't know what it is now, but I think it used to be 4 regional meetings in a year. So London and Southern counties is one region, the Northeast, the Northwest, Scotland. I feel like there's another one, but I can't remember what it is. But Midlands and Welsh, yeah. Okay, so there were 5 regions, and they would get together roughly 4 times a year. In addition to which, you had the annual general meeting, and you have the convention, which traditionally takes place in an overseas location. So bearing in mind that a lot of these companies are family owned, not that should matter, but a lot of these companies are family owned. So you turn up to an NFDC meeting, and sat on the table on the side of you is somebody that it's been legally proven, someone has cheated you out of work, has cheated your family out of income, and they have done so fraudulently by, colluding behind the scenes. Would you really want to sit down for lunch with those people? I wouldn't. I mean, I've been. Well, there was an attempt to stitch me up a few years ago. So that's it. We're done. I have nothing whatsoever to do with those people anymore. Just completely blocked them. I mean, I know they watch what I do and everything else. Just don't give them the time of day. They don't matter to me. They don't exist in my realm. Ed Butler's just joined us. Morning, Ed. I'm guessing Ed's down in Wales. Morning, Ed. And I was going to say Yakidar. I'm not entirely sure that's even a way to say it, is it? What are the options to price these jobs? Where are the options to price these jobs? Tender lists. But that is precisely the point. Here is precisely the point. So particularly when you think about like frameworks and you think about local authorities, they have a tender list, and it's quite hard work to get onto that tender list, and they are very, very publicly, they are very exacting. You have to have this level of insurance, you have to employ this number of local people on a job, and all the health and safety stuff has to be in place. You have to, this level of income, this level of insurance, all all of the things are there in black and white, and you need to tick all those boxes to even get onto the list, to even be considered. And one of those questions now, not because of the CMA, this has been the case for the last few years, but one of those questions is precisely that. Have you been caught involved in any form of corruption? So, backhanders to local authorities, collusion on pricing, all of those sort of things. There is an actual question about it, and you are expected to say, no, I haven't. And my guess is if you say, yes, I have, you're not on the list. If you say, no, I haven't, but you're found to be lying, you're off the list. These things are out in the public record. The names of the 10 companies that were found guilty by the CMA are there. It's public record. It's been widely shared. I've done it. Construction News has done it. Building Magazine has done it. It's been in the national press. It's been on the TV. All of this is out there. So either these local authorities and these frameworks and these tier 1 companies that are claiming to be keen on anti-corruption are not doing their job, or they're just happy to look the other way. That's the point. Steve says, is there a best way to send pictures to show on the show? The best way is to convert the pictures into a PDF and send them via email, because I've got email on one thing over here. And the difference is if you send me a photograph, regardless of the shape, if you send me a photograph, it appears like that, so you can see me in the background. If, however, let me get rid of that. If, however, you send me as a PDF, it appears like that. That's the difference. I'm not expecting you to go to the trouble. The biggest thing is probably don't do it live. That because I've got to grab it off of one place, put it on another, possibly convert it. It's a whole thing, honestly. I won't bore you with the details. Let me take that away. So yes, so Monday's column is going to be all about that, and I've done it by comparing it to football. So the analogy, basically, and I won't give you the full story because I want you to read the article, but the whole thing, if anybody is a football fan, and I know a few of you are, you have that instance where somebody should have been sent off and you're sat there shouting at the referee, why didn't you send him off? He kicked somebody up in the air, he should have been sent off. And then 10 minutes later, that same person goes and scores the winning goal. Same deal. The people that have won the work in this instance should not have been on the tender list in the first place, at least in my opinion. Not that my opinion counts for squat, to be honest. But I've made it very clear in the article, this is not a dig at the companies. To my mind, they were found that they did wrong. They were found to have been doing wrong. They've taken their punishment. Most of them have paid their fines, and we all move on. And it is in their interest. That's the way business works. They need to carry on winning work. But to my mind, it just smacks of tier 1 contractors, frameworks, just looking at it and think, oh, well, they've been a bit naughty, but we'll let it slide. So why bother with that question? The National Federation of Demolition Contractors have got exactly the same. Their reaction was not to put any sort of sanction on the companies that were found guilty. All they did was come up with a new form where once a year you're expected to say, I do not indulge in illegal practices. Is anyone going to fill that in honestly? I said this the other day on the Breakfast Show. If you're a card-carrying member of Al Qaeda and you turn up at Gatwick Airport with some explosives strapped to your back, and the lady behind the counter says, "Are you carrying explosives?" What are you going to say? Oh, yes, my mistake. Forgot I had them with me. Of course you're not. You're going to lie, aren't you? Ken Hatcher says, new Star Wars coin out today. I'm off down to the mint soon. Ken loves the mint, but he's also messing about with his new car. What did you end up with, Ken? I know you were talking about, were you going semi-hybrid or something like that? I can't remember exactly what it was, but I knew there was a new car in the offing. Didn't know it was quite this soon. But what have you gone for? A new Star Wars coin. Star Wars, not that big a deal for me. Coin's not that big a deal for me, come to mention it. But if that's the sort of thing you're into, well said. They shouldn't be allowed for a minimum time. Yeah, that was my take. I've said this so many times, it's like I'm blue in the face now. But exactly the same with the NFDC. The NFDC, if they'd had any sense, in my opinion anyway, they should have temporarily suspended all of the companies that had brought themselves into themselves, the industry, and the NFDC into disrepute. Kick them out for 6 months on the basis that they will be allowed back in so long as they behave themselves. Wouldn't have been a lot to ask. Would it have done the companies any harm? No, but it might have made them think twice and so on down the line, instead of which they just went, oh no, in future. So, and therein lies another. I'm going to go back to the chat in just a second. Imagine that. If you're a company that is a member of the NFDC now, and you've signed your form that says you won't do anything in terms of collusion, and you then do, my guess is they could throw the book at you, they could kick you out and everything else. But that rule did not apply retrospectively. So you've got 10 companies who have literally brought the entire industry into disrepute to the tune of a £60 million fine. They face no punishment from the NFDC. But if you do it now, oh yes, they'll throw the book at you. How does that make any sense whatsoever? Let's have a look. Ken Hatcher says, what is he saying? Toyota RAV4 plug-in, hybrid, petrol and electric. All the options. That's a man who likes to hedge his bets in terms of fuel. Jim Turner says, I love coins. Do you know, when I don't suppose for one moment she's still here, but my sister was here earlier. My parents had not major collections. I mean, probably a dozen or so. They'd bought those big coins, not sovereigns and stuff, but big commemorative coins. Royal weddings and other such tosh, and they had those. And when we were clearing their house out after they both passed away, my sister said, should we split these? Not that bothered. Partly because I'm not particularly sentimental, but not that interested. Chris Ford, morning, nearly missed it. Oh, the things you've missed. Jim Turner says, I'd rather be given notes, but coins are better than nothing. Dan Cullen says the NFDC is a joking organisation, to be honest. It could be so much better. Money backhander still goes on today. There are many companies that are still under the radar getting away with things. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily argue with that at all. I understand the thought behind banning dodgy companies, but what about the guys who work for them and need to pay their bills and like? I make that very point in the article. That is absolutely true. And if you're a digger driver working for one of the 10 companies, it is unfair that you should be unnecessarily punished. But by the same token, your bosses, if you're one of you're working for one of those 10 companies, your bosses weren't so worried about that. When they were doing their dodgy deals, they weren't so bothered about that. Okay. I'm just going to see what... Have I seen that? Bear with me. I'm just reading thing. It's a good point, Steve. I'm just reading a thing here. I'll save this for another show, but this is something we've touched on before. Steve sent me a photograph of a site. I won't bore you with all the details, but it's a house building site, and there's what looks like one, maybe two houses that are finished, and then there's 10 houses still being built. So there's scaffolding all around them, and because of the way they've done the job, Steve, in his excavator, has now got to basically squeeze between barriers and scaffolding to go about his work. If they had started at the far end and worked backwards, there'd be no need for Steve to go to the far end. Makes no sense. Really doesn't. Let's have a look. Coins are cool, says Dan Cullen. Listen, I'll take... it's much the same as Star Wars. Star Wars apparently is cool. Not to me, it isn't. Peter McKenna. Morning, Peter. How are you doing? How's your Tana working out for you? But we will readdress that one, Steve, at some point in the not too distant future. No, that's got nothing to do with anything whatsoever, so that's all okay. We're all hunky-dory on that. Let me take that away as well. Yeah, just a very quick update on next week's shows. So I will be here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Not time to do a show on Friday, unfortunately, because I'm due at the airport at about 11 o'clock. And given the way that you lot all talk, I can't be guaranteed to be out of here by 10:30. So, and there's Steve saying, I'm not a Star Wars fan either. Try to watch, but just note, it's bizarre. I love the old Star Trek, the TV series and all the movies and everything else. And, there's been plenty of other sci-fi things that I've liked. Star Wars, saw it, didn't see what the fuss was about. So, yes, next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I will be here, be doing the Breakfast show as normal. And then I'm off to Italy for for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So back on Wednesday. There's no point in me even saying this. I won't be here, but I'll still get messages saying, is there a show today? No, there won't be. I see plant operators complaining about infrastructure all the time. HGV drivers have to put up with infuriating structures on a daily basis and can't change anything. Get a grip, lads. I know what you're saying, and I don't necessarily disagree with you. Look at this purely from a health and safety perspective. Look at it purely from a health and safety perspective. I know you can't see the photograph, so it doesn't really show what it is that we're talking about. But imagine a house building site where you're building from here that way. So every time you need to do any kind of work, and Steve's in an excavator, he's got to drive past a completed house, which is quite possibly an occupied house. So he's got people who probably don't know their way around construction sites anyway, moving about. You've probably also got other trades. There's scaffolding up, so you've got scaffolders. You've probably got fixers and fitters and all of the things that go with it. If they had started at the far end, completed a house, now Steve doesn't have to go to that place. He comes back one. So all of those people that are working up there, including the people that occupy the houses, they're safe and sound. They're not going to be clouted by an excavator because there's no reason for the excavator to go that far. And then they build another house. Same thing applies. So you gradually work your way back towards the entry to the site. How is that difficult? And you've immediately segregated people from machines. Steve says, what I'm trying to say is 10 houses into the site. They sold the fifth one, so everything is awkward. You have an unfinished house behind, left to it and right to it. Can't they sell the first one, then the next, then the next? We had exactly the same when we bought our old house. Exactly the same situation. Ours was made worse because we were actually in like a U shape. So they built several, and there were different types. There were sort of 4s and 5 and 3 bedrooms and stuff, and they were occupied at different times. So, the first 6 months that we lived there, you'd go outside your house, telehandler would whiz by. You'd come home at night, site dumper would whiz by. Just a lack of planning, really is. Jim Turner says they should start at the entrance and put a temporary entrance in, make the build route, finish at the roadside where the temporary entrance is, ideally where the POS is going to be finished. Yes, not hard at all. Let's have a look. Ed Butler says, just sent you a WhatsApp message. Have a look. It involves a fraud scandal on a huge scale that happened within my family business. I've turned my phone off. Let me turn it back on again because I think that was where my weird sound was coming from. Just while we're about it, somebody from the northwest region of the NFDC would like to wish Leslie Ransom a happy birthday. I didn't see who it was, but happy birthday, Leslie Ransom, 65. Today, yesterday, tomorrow, one of those. Yes, the Chief Financial Officer at the NFDC is 65. It's a fine old age. Retirement age. Is there a succession plan? Who the hell knows? Who the hell knows? Let's have a look. Dan says, Steve, I see that an awful lot. You've got to squeeze past some tight areas. I'm not starters. It's most annoying. Bearing in mind the way that sites are segregated. So, you have designated walkways, and you have designated entry points and exit points and designated fire points and all those sort of things. And yet when the work starts, people, machines, all into different trades, many of whom are not familiar with equipment. If your job is to paint the ceiling of a brand new house, chances are you don't come across a 13-ton excavator on a daily basis. And then all of a sudden, there's one working within 3 feet of where you're stood. Is that really the best way to do it? Steve says, myself and Ed are big Tremors fans. I get the impression there's an in-joke in that. Not sure what it is. Ken Hatcher, is there a show next Friday? There is not. There is not a show next Friday because I will be at the airport, I'm afraid. Peter McKenna says, the Tunnel is an amazing piece of kit. Enjoy driving it. Been told that that's now my machine. And when Bertha moves, I will move with her. Fantastic stuff. That's what we like to hear. Hope your health holds up so you can. Steve, that's a film. Hell yes. Let's have a look. All sites are the same, says Ken Hatcher. If they sell it, they want their money. Stuff its position. That seems to be the way. Does it? Which again, going back to what I was saying about the CMA and all the things that go with that. When you think about that, we've got this hard and fast rule. We will not work with anybody that's been found guilty of collusion or corruption in the past. Yeah, I'll go on then. Exactly the same thing with a house building site like I'm looking at from Steve. We segregate people, we segregate machines. There's a yard for the machines, there's a place for the people, and we want to safeguard ourselves, we want to safeguard the public, we want to safeguard the people that have just bought the house. Yeah, we've sold a house. Oh, never mind all that, just crack on. How does that make any sense? And those sites as well expect 40-foot wagons to come in and reverse on roads only fit for 2 cars. This is all true. I know how housing sites are. That's why I've never been a fan of working on them, says Peter. They complain about noise, and some sites you can't start at 8. I say tough shit, to be honest. It's a good point. And again, bearing in mind the way that house builders actually work, I realise they deny this. I have to admire the fact that they deny it with a straight face. You have house builders who will basically buy up plots of land and then sit on it until the price is right for them to start work. At which point it's all balls to the wall. Let's get these houses up as quickly as we can and let's get them sold. I remember when we bought our house. Ours was the first in the road that we bought. And somebody said to us they're very keen to get curtains in windows because when you've got prospective customers coming along, they like to see the fact that one or more of the houses is occupied because it proves that other people have... It's like being the first at the wedding buffet. Somebody else has been there first, so therefore it must be okay. So they're mad keen to do that. And then all of a sudden, everything goes out of the window. The routes through the site, the traffic management, all of that kind of thing. Never mind all that. Just get the unit sold. Housing sector has steadily, but recently the pace has picked up, gone down the pan over the last 20 years. The one reason I want to get out of it, says Jim Turner. Yep, the amount of money that was scandal will shock you. I'm going to go and take a look at that. Somebody had to, didn't they? The people living in those houses are lucky. When I were a lad, we lived in cardboard box in middle of Motorway. Yeah, if anybody remembers Monty Python, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Mick Norton says the house builders of the world make an average of 68 grand a profit for each new build. £68,000 a profit. And they're doing that at the expense of health and safety, convenience, traffic management, and all the things that go with it. You've not heard of the film Tremors? Of course I have. Kevin Bacon and the other bloke with big underground worms. It just, when you said that you were both fans of it, it's like they're trying to get a dirty joke past me and they're just not letting me in on it. I've seen Tremors. Speaking of Kevin Bacon, did anybody see he went back to, I think it was 40 years on, he went to the school where they filmed the movie Footloose, and as he arrived, and Kevin Bacon seems like a pretty cool kind of guy, they were playing the music from Footloose. He got out of his car and kind of danced his way to the podium. What a guy. Ed Butler says, working in the utility game, you have to have eyes everywhere when operating on moving machinery, working busy towns and streets, live utilities in the ground, traffic, pedestrians, overhead cables, buildings. The list is endless. And why is that? Now, Fred Ward was the other fellow. Thank you very much indeed for that, Ed. Tremors. Here's the thing, right? So, in the aftermath of the demolition scaffolding collapse over in Reading, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, there was a big discussion about the use of scaffolding in demolition and everything else. And I was speaking to somebody, one of the guys that I really respect in the demolition industry said, the best way to have tackled that job would be to get a road closure for 24, 48 hours, push the entire building in, reopen the road, and then you can go about your business behind a hoarding, cutting up and chopping and crushing and processing and whatever. The reason it hadn't been done that way was because they couldn't get authorization from the local authority. The local authority refused to close the road. Now, you would have seen recently, we've had a couple of major closures on the M25, one of the busiest roads in London, or outside of London. We've had major road closures so that bridges can be taken down and replaced. So going back to Ed Butler, you're working in busy towns and streets. You've got live utilities, you've got pedestrians, overhead cables, all of those kind of things. Would the sensible thing not be for the local authority to say, look, I would rather inconvenience people for a couple of days, shut the road, get all the work done, and then open it back up again. Instead of which, you as an excavator operator or whatever it might be, you are expected to work around live utilities, pedestrians who don't know the first thing about construction. You know, the number of times, I'm sure you've seen it yourself, you go on YouTube and people have literally walked through an active site because, you know, they're on their phone and, I've just gone through the holding, I didn't, or I've gone through the barrier, I didn't even realise I was doing it. Would it not be more sensible, particularly given the stated desire for safety, for those local authorities to say, just for an afternoon or a day or 2 days, maybe over a holiday, maybe over a bank holiday, we're just going to shut that part of the town, let the work get done, and then we'll reopen it. How hard could that possibly be? Just asking. Peter McKenna says, wish you could see it from the outside looking in. Coming from a transport background, I see the shite you guys have on a daily basis from a different perspective. Yeah, I'm sure that's the case. Steve says, I had a painter walk out of a house and I was putting in services. Walked out and straight underneath the boom. No thumbs up, nothing. I was working the machine while this happened. Us operators always get told about barriers and this and that. Why the hell aren't site agents telling the trade guys about common sense working around the machines? The ultimate answer to that, in my personal opinion, is they shouldn't need to be told. If you planned and managed your jobs properly, the painter and the guy driving the excavator should never be in the same vicinity. You know, Steve, and I promise you, I'm not blaming you. Your part of that job should have been done in that area before the painter arrived. You should be over here while he's over there. And the fact that actually happened, or that didn't happen, is purely down to lack of planning and to greed. You know, let's get this crap. As I say, they sit on plots of land, these house builders, and then when the time is right, it's all balls to the wall. Let's get these houses up and sold as quickly as we can, and never mind the consequences. Should not be happening. It says the town and streets become the site and it's my responsibility to put safety measures and segregation in place while also operating a machine. That's not your job. Just not your job. Mick Norton lived in a cardboard box, luxury lad. We got evicted from our cardboard box. Oh, we're going to go down the 4 Yorkshireman line, are we? Simon Skepton says, all these new houses going up, but the infrastructure for dealing with the wastewater is not being dealt with. Pumping stations are easily overwhelmed, especially when there is a lot of rain and the raw sewage ends up going into the sea or rivers. Hot topic. Obviously, we're only a month and a bit away now from the start of the fishing season, and I fish on rivers and canals. I would imagine my sport is going to be somewhat ruined. There's a couple of places where I go fishing where on a summer's evening I will quite happily kick off my shoes and sit there with my feet dangling into the water, nice and cool. Won't be doing that anytime soon because I don't want to die, and I don't want somebody else's effluent up my legs. The other point there is it's not just wastewater. When we moved, I'm going back a few years, but when we moved into the house that we moved into, there were no roads, and it took about 4 years before the roads were built and then adopted by the local authority. We had no real refuse collection. There was like a central point, so that wasn't in place. They hadn't thought about building any new schools, despite the fact that all the houses on the development were 3, 4, 5 bedroom, so obviously family homes. They hadn't built any new schools, so the school was overflowing. Everything, they basically just crack on, build the houses, and let them worry about what happens afterwards. There is no foresight to it whatsoever. Ed Butler says, working with highways notice every day, and they are there to make money out of the contractor. Yeah. Peter McKenna says, and risks the flak from the public for such inconvenience. There's a bad accident on the motorway. They close said carriageway for the safety of everyone. Have you seen the flak they get for doing so? Listen, if I'm in charge of a local authority, if I'm in charge of highways or a section of highways, I would rather close a road than kill somebody. I could take an awful lot of people telling me that I'm a twat. Frankly, in my line of business, I get that anyway. But I'd much rather have that than have the blood of somebody on my hands. I could have closed a road. I chose not to. Someone died. That's my fault. I could not live with that. Morning all, says Mick. Sorry, me and Hoover have been having an argument. Who won? Hoover suck, don't they? Somebody had to, didn't they? Simon Scott says, common sense is a flower that doesn't grow in everyone's garden. Yes, I do like that. I've heard a couple of things recently. My wife showed me a post. Somebody had taken a photograph of a meal they'd cooked, and they put it on Facebook, and the first comment was, what a terrible time to have eyes. And then I saw a meme doing the rounds yesterday, which, given all the local election furore yesterday, somebody had come up with a meme. If Monday were a person, it would be Rishi Sunak. I agree with that. Ed Butler says, unfortunately, in an ideal world, that would be the right way. I've got a road closure on the moment right in Monmouth town centre, but I still have to allow access to delivery vehicles, pedestrians and emergency services, trying to trench a new water main up the town centre. We've had a situation here, and I have to say they've done pretty well. It is kind of tucked away, but they're replacing the bridge over Stoney Railway Station, which is just down the road from here. But that site has taken up one end of Stoneleigh High Street for almost a year now, I would guess. Makes access and exiting the station a pain in the arse. There's cranes and telehandlers working there and stuff. And they're having to do the whole thing around, obviously, the railway times. Why not just, bearing in mind this is going up and over, it's not affecting the tracks, so why not just have the trains go straight through, close the station for a couple of weeks, possibly even more, put on bus services to the local train station or to another local train station, just blitz the job, just go in all guns blazing, get the job done, and then reopen it. Jim Turner says, the back end work all happens at the same time. So if we're working at the front, every other trade should have to use the rear door to the house. Standard practice should be front door locked and a barrier across it, and then do the opposite when we're doing the patio garden. Wouldn't argue with that. We had a saying, says Chris Ford, if you're going to act the twat, wear a silly hat. I'm not even going to comment. Mick says, missed most of this morning. Thames Water planning a new main for the Isle of Dogs and to be done in 3 stages. God almighty help us. Yeah, good luck with that. Good luck with that. Thames Water. Yes. Less said about Thames Water, I think, the better. Mick says to the other Mick, sorry, mate, sent you an email for a little info. Hope you didn't mind, or hope you don't mind. Dan Cullen saying, good morning to one and all. If you look like a twat, walk like a twat, and talk like a twat, you are a journalist? I've just got a strike on Facebook for my last comment, as it may offend someone. Listen, it is so easy these days to offend people. It seems I by the way, nobody has mentioned the word tits so far today. That's it. That's a hat trick completed. Let's have a look what we got here. No, that wasn't the one I wanted. No name, no pack drill. Thank you for that, Chris. Definitely the less said about Thames Water. What a shower. How very appropriate. Simon Skelton says, Mayor of London. Mayor of London. Oh, there's not been an outcome on that, has there? Do you know, it's... Obviously, we had a mayoral candidate, a minority mayoral candidate on one of our shows. I don't suppose for one moment he got more than about half a dozen votes. But it's one of the mayoral race between Sadiq Khan and is it Susan Hall, the Tory candidate? In an ideal world, both of them would lose. But one of them's going to win. Let's have a look. Well, I was going to show up, gone tips up, and there's a pair nesting in the garden. Peter says, I want to know what they are going to do with the ship that is in the Thames with all the explosives on. That's an accident waiting to happen. There's a ship in the Thames with explosives on it? Is there? What? Why? When? Obviously passed me by. Thank you. So yes, just to fill in the gaps here. If you look like a twat, walk like a twat, and talk like a twat, you are. And this is Simon Skelton. You are Mayor of London. Thank you very much indeed for that. Jim Turner says we now have red, amber, and yellow zones. My own banksman ground worker can't be in the reach of the machine if it's working. But the same company that's implementing this had a crane lifting trusses onto the roof. There would have been at least 20 people in reach of the crane if anything went wrong. But that's all right, apparently. Yeah. The ship's been there for 80 years. Why wasn't I told? I fish on the Thames. I really quite like to know where this is so I can avoid it. Yeah, don't know. Listen, so much passes me by. So much passes me by. By the way, if you were here... Don't worry, Ed, you're in good company. All this talk about twats, I feel like one now. You might remember yesterday I was talking about a guy that introduced me to the likes of Meatloaf and the Sex Pistols and Echo and the Bunnymen, and I remembered his first name was Terry, but I couldn't remember his surname. Morell. Terry Morell. Terry, wherever you are, assuming you are still with us, good morning. Mick says, Robert Montgomery got enough ammo on it to create a 20-foot wave up the Thames. See, now, I don't want this to go off, but a 20-foot wave up the Thames would be quite a sight, wouldn't it? You've got to be honest. Peter says, the SS Richard Montgomery beached along the Thames estuary in 1944, eventually sinking with 1,400 tons of explosive cargo on board. Decades later, government efforts began to try and remove the masts in case they fell into the cargo and detonated. The aim now is to carry out the most mast removal work within the next year. As of 13th of April, 2024. You could do that Crocodile Dundee style fishing with that boat. Well, I mean, Thames Water have already killed off most of the fish in the Thames. Whatever's left, you'd certainly get them with 1,400 tons of explosives, should I say. Yep, that's old. It's from the 1900s. Deterioration and, say, explosive on, it's similar to a mini nuke. All right, I take back what I said about it being quite a sight. Let's not do that, shall we? Mick says, no one of the divers who dives the wreck to keep an eye on it. They're looking at removing what they can, but it's cold enough to keep it safe. Are we sure? Are we sure? This is not unfamiliar territory to London, of course. I've not heard of one recently, but back in the day, back when I was working on Contract Journal, late 1980s, and they were in the middle of building London Docklands on our friend Mick's doorstep. Unexploded bombs and what have you were, I wouldn't say they were a regular occurrence, but once a fortnight maybe, because of obviously the importance of the docks back in the day. They were bombed very, very heavily. Not all of them went off. So yeah, unexploded. Does anyone remember the TV show Danger UXB? Famous last words. What was that bang? That's kind of how I'm planning to go out. I want one big bang and that's it. Game over. Mind you, with global warming, keep the tin hats handy. Yes, my tin hat is never far away. And my aluminium foil hat as well. Right, people, I think we're nearly done, aren't we? We've had an hour of Lord alone knows what. I'm going to be back, as I say, just to very quickly reiterate to you, I'm going to be here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then I'm away until the following Wednesday because I think my wife deserves a bit of a break from all of the stuff and nonsense. Simon Skelton says, should have had your ear defenders on. Yes, don't forget your ear defenders, people, because the HSE are checking. If you are required to have ear defenders in your line of work, then make sure you're wearing them, because there is a crackdown. I think it actually starts today. Only the HSE could start on the Saturday, but yes, they are starting today. Dan Cullen saying, have a lovely weekend, guys. Stay safe and happy. Yeah, do that. That sounds like perfectly good advice. I'm going to love you and leave you because I'm going to go and buy my good lady wife a cup of coffee before she goes out for the day. See you all on Monday. And there is a V1 in the Pool of London. Is there? Two things. I mean, the V1, that was pretty much Doodlebug, I think. The Pool of London? What is the Pool of London? See, I bearing in mind I grew up in Battersea, so I'm only just a London. Let us know. Bugger, just getting into the swing of things. Catch you next week. Have a good weekend, everyone. Not a problem at all, Chris. Look forward to seeing you then. Simon Skelton saying, have a great weekend, guys. Yes, you too, Simon. Go away and do your artistry. And Mixland says Tower Bridge. See, I should have known that. It's where my dad grew up. Or he grew up in Tower Bridge Road, actually. Yes. Well, he actually grew up in Green Walk, just off of Tower Bridge Road. That's a whole other story. Good weekend, peeps. Jim Turner says, yes, good weekend, peeps, indeed. People, go forth. Enjoy what's left of your Saturday. Enjoy your Sunday. See you on Monday for some stuff. I could actually tell you with some of the stuff we've got coming up. We have a very exclusive interview with the guy that organised the Intermat show. We've also got something new from Kubota. We've also got some emissions-free construction all the way from Germany, which I'll bore you with on Monday. Stay safe, fellas, says Mick. Enjoy the weekend. And there's Peter McKenna saying, have a good weekend. Yes, do precisely that. I'll see you again on Monday. Till then, everybody, au revoir. I'm still speaking French. That needs to stop. See you later.